Hey. Welcome in to the voice of college basketball. I'm expecting to see Jacques Vaughn and Greg Ostertag out there. Welcome to the voice of college football on a college football playoff rankings special reveal for week 2. And we share that with all of you. And I knew better than to schedule this at 9 o'clock since it was scheduled on the mothership, the worldwide leader, i.e. ESPN, at 9 p.m. Eastern time between basketball games of, who is it? Michigan State, Kansas, Kentucky, and somebody in game 2. Because I remember now the good old days of being there working on the programming lineup and what was going to happen, because you got your 7 o'clock basketball game that's supposed to end at 9 o'clock, followed by your college football special from 9 to 9:30, followed by your basketball game from 9:30 to 11:30 that leads into Sports Center. But of course, the basketball game ends not at 9 o'clock. It ends at 9:24. And that pushes everything back. And what do we do with the 24 minutes? We got to take from Sports Center and try to figure it out. And how do we figure all that out? Yes, those were the days. Boy, I don't have to deal with that anymore. I just have to deal with, really don't have to deal with anything. It's all just joy and fun with all of you here at the Voice of College Football each and every day as we talk college football and we break out the phone lines, which I will after we get the reveal. I got to tell you, what I did was I've been recording since 10 o'clock this morning, nonstop, 10 o'clock through. We did our Iowa Hawkeye show, which I know all of you caught from 5:30 to 6:30. Then I had to record on Michigan State that lasted till about 7, did a few other things, and then I was just like, I've just not been on my game today, just have not. So if you watch any videos that were recorded today, you need to give me a pass. Just not feeling the best today. I feel fine. I'm not sick, anything like that. Just one of those days, just don't feel great. Anyway, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to be up late tonight, and what do I have to do besides edit 42 videos between now and when we talk college football with all of you and get the playoff rankings? I'll just crash on the couch if I can. And I did fall asleep for a little while. Set my alarm for 8:46. Had to be 8:46. Takes 14 minutes to get, 8:46 was where the numbers went. And set the alarm. And I thought, when I turn that TV on and we set it up for our big playoff watch party, what do we call this? A rankings reveal watch party. We'll have the big one, of course, on Selection Sunday. That's going to be great, as it always is. But they're not going to be done with that basketball game. There's going to be, whatever on the clock. And yeah, 3:21 on the clock. They were in commercial break. They came back 3:21 on the clock. Knew it. Fortunately, not a close game as, again, my basketball, there would have been a time when I could have turned this on, told you everybody on the court, told you who they were, how good these teams were. But, one thing has not changed in the many years that they've been doing this doubleheader of great basketball on kind of an opening night. I know that there have been basketball games played before this. This is not opening night, but kind of the unofficial start to the college basketball season. You can almost predict from game to game or year to year what the games will be selected for this. When I saw Kansas, Michigan State, I'm like, and now it's coming to me. I think the second game's Duke, Kansas, or Duke, Kentucky. Yeah, that's pretty typical. That doesn't change. This could be 1998 all over again, and you'd have the same college basketball teams playing. So Michigan State, as usual in the Tom Izzo regime, they lose a non-conference game. Not a big deal. Lose a non-conference game. It's only November. Big deal. Listen to me spewing out the college basketball analysis. Tom Izzo losing non-conference games to, of course, I'm sure his non-conference schedule would put any college football team to shame, because Michigan State, they like to take on the tough teams, the big opponents, the brand names throughout November, December, into January. Get ready for that. Get tough, get hardened for that Big Ten schedule. And then it doesn't matter if you've lost 7 or 8 games. You're still going to be a 2 seed. Still going to possibly win a Big Ten championship, vie for the Big Ten title, and you're ready to go. Your team's ready for March. When's the last time Tom Izzo and Michigan State went to the Final Four? Probably been a few years, but man, it used to be like every other year. All right, no more college basketball talk because I can't stand it anymore. The first name I heard on this broadcast, I thought, you know what? I'm going to remember that name. I'm going to break it out, impress everyone. Stayed in my head for about 4 seconds. It's gone. Again, Okai Abaji being interviewed right now by Holly Rowe. All right, great to see everybody here at the Voice of College Football. I enjoy these kind of get-togethers. And again, the Selection Sunday get-together after the conference championship games on Saturday, that will be a time. We're simulcasting in a ton of channels, all the channels that are involved in the rankings, heavily involved. Iowa, sorry, I dropped you this week. I involved you last week. I dropped you this week. Scores more than 17 points against Northwestern. Beat the Wildcats by more than 5. Do that, and we'll keep you on here in contention for a high ranking in the playoff rankings. But all the channels that represent teams that are in the running for a high ranking. Yeah, we simulcast across the board here at the Voice of College Football Networks. Reese Davis is fired up. They're in New York City. There was not a chill in the air today. We got a kickback to not summer, but it's probably 65 degrees. I'm actually within a couple hours of New York City here in wink, wink, beautiful Connecticut. But yeah, I had too many records to get outside. I usually like to get outside for a nice little run or trip down to the playground down the street to shoot some hoops, but not today. See how you are all doing here. What do we got? Oh, man, comments all over the place. Tons of super chats coming in, too. Exploring with Ben. Hey, you're first? Way back at 7:36. 9 o'clock, Ben, 9 o'clock. Hope you weren't waiting too long. Hope you've stuck with us, actually. There's Brett. Yeah, is this the worst, second best? Buffalo Bills, Atlanta Braves. Who won the World Series, of course. But you'll remember what I mean. You children of the 90s, the Atlanta Braves, Buffalo Bills, second best. Exploring with Ben. I don't expect much drama with the rankings. Think everyone just slides up, at least Oregon and Ohio State. Cincinnati will be interesting to see. Barely escaping Tulsa. Yeah, what I need to do, man, I get into this issue every week in terms of content delivery where I would like to, I haven't even delivered my Big Ten power rankings. I get to the Big Ten and the SEC, and then it's so late in the week after that, I don't get to the other conferences I want to, and then nobody watches the other conferences videos anyway. That I don't even go there. But it reminds me that my top 25 that actually makes sense, of course, has been responded to with much applause, much criticism, a lot of good questions and decent comments. I enjoy that part of it, the argument that's legit, but a lot of haters out there, of course, that don't understand. Yes, don't criticize what you don't understand. If you haven't been fully enlightened, haven't seen the light, but I want to produce a video where I need to do this every week, whether that would this be a good live stream or would it be a good video to respond to the comments on the top 25 that actually makes sense? Cement Eagle, absolutely. Expand this playoff. We don't have enough spots. And if I hear anybody, again, as I saw a comment come into the channel today, well, if we expand to 12, then everybody's just going to argue, well, 13 and 14 and 15 are just going to argue, and their fans are going to argue we should have been in. And I thought, I just don't have the energy today to explain to this person why. I think I did respond. I just said, you know what? Watch. Just watch my channel. I will respond to that again. And I know we got new people jumping on all the time, so you guys don't keep up with my scheduling formats and my playoff formats and my arguments for and against and why buys don't make sense. I get that. Of course, you guys have lives, so we'll get around to it. But certainly in the off season, yeah, that's the time to do all that. Christopher says, escaping Tulsa, not accurate. Yes, accurate. Yes, accurate. Don't care. Even if there was not a play in a series where Cincinnati fumbled, Tulsa got the ball inside the 5, almost scored. Even without that sequence, yes, Cincinnati still survived. They played a marginal, to be kind, football team, and they did not look impressive. They did not dominate the game by any stretch. They didn't control the game. They did nothing the game. They just won the game. And you people out there that hate the NFL, I'm right there with you. It's not about just winning the game. You've got to be impressive. You've got to be measured against your opponent. That's what we have to do. If we had my playoff system, we wouldn't have to do that. But in this playoff system, the win isn't all that counts. In this playoff system, that's all they're going to be talking about. I'm pointing to my television over here. That's all they're going to be talking about for a half hour, which is a blessing tonight. Only a half hour, not a full hour that we have to wait. So we can get to you on the phone lines very quickly, but only a half hour tonight, which reminds me, I probably need to go get my phone cord a little bit later before we set up for the phone system. It may be down there, but got to impress. We don't have enough spots. If we had enough spots, at least for the conference champions, and if you had my system, then wouldn't matter what you would win by. Would not. It wouldn't have to necessarily matter, but it's a unique problem to college football because we've got so many teams, so few spots, and it's football. You can only play 12 games. You can't play 30 games like college basketball. Okay. All right. Then Christopher commented like 42 times in a row. Oh, the Buckeyes had a basketball game tonight. Oh. We're going to get right to it. Here we go. Number 21's Pitt. 22 is San Diego State. Number 23 is Texas San Antonio. How did they magically appear? What happened there? Utah at number 24 and Arkansas at 25. Can you imagine a game between Texas San Antonio and Arkansas? Who wins that game and by how much? How is Utah's resume better than Arkansas's? Okay. 16 through 20, NC State, Auburn, Wisconsin, Purdue, Iowa. Is anybody keeping track of how this compares to my 2025? I don't have NC State that high, that's for sure. NC State's higher than Auburn, Wisconsin, Purdue, and Iowa. Let's see. Penn State was not in the rankings last week. Penn State must not be in the rankings unless they jumped all the way to 15, beating Maryland, and that didn't happen. Penn State not in these rankings. Texas San Antonio is. Huh? All right, Texas A&M 11. Wake, Baylor. Baylor only dropped to 13. BYU, Ole Miss. Baylor has a better resume than Ole Miss. Do they? Baylor, Ole Miss. Well, I would say that Texas A&M is the lowest ranked team. Wake Forest, maybe. Certainly Texas A&M is the lowest ranked team that could make the college football playoff. Wake couldn't do it against North Carolina. Couldn't pull through. Couldn't get it done. All right, let's get to the top 10 here. Oklahoma State's at number 10. Oklahoma State at 8-1. They're still in great shape. They hold the tiebreakers over Iowa State and Texas. And, well, of course, Texas is history, but Iowa State and anybody eligible for the Big 12 championship game appearance there is the number 2 seed. So Oklahoma State, they can just get themselves to the Big 12 championship game, which it appears as though they will. I think we may have a back-to-back Bedlam series this year with the Cowboys and the Sooners playing back-to-back this year. Notre Dame at 9. Notre Dame lost to Cincinnati, of course. Notre Dame with a win against Navy. First time they've beaten a team, really beat them down in a long time. They won by 4 scores, 4 touchdowns. So Notre Dame finally gets it done in a big way. And we'll, of course, be diving into all the matchups coming up for this weekend. All right, let's get to it. Let's go. Whoa, come on, boys. Roll Tide. Oklahoma stays at 8. Didn't play. Fine. I'm not understanding this ranking. So Michigan State, this was a question coming into this. Michigan State lost, but they were able to stay ahead of Oklahoma with a loss. So the committee is keeping Michigan State ahead of Oklahoma, those two teams with a loss. And Michigan State should still be ahead of Michigan. They beat them head-to-head. And Ohio State's performance against Nebraska certainly would not vault them above Oregon. It doesn't add to their resume. Nebraska's, you know, the enigma that Nebraska is. They actually play well, but they lose constantly. They haven't beaten anyone this year. And so Ohio State only beat them by 9, close game. Didn't put it away till 90 seconds left. The AP, I don't know if the AP probably took in, the AP voters took in Ohio State's game against Nebraska, but did not take in Oregon's game. It was probably too late at night that they didn't stay up for it to know how much they just played like garbage. Similar wins for Ohio State and Oregon, but in the AP poll, they jumped Oregon over Ohio State. All right, this is what we've all been waiting for, is to get that number 1 ranking. There it is, Georgia. Alabama's number 2. Barely beat LSU. Barely beat LSU. It was a good game. Oregon jumps to 3 with the Michigan State loss. Ohio State should be 4. There they are. You'll wonder what the arguments are in that committee room between Ohio State and Oregon. You know, not the entire committee is not saying Oregon should be number 3 and Ohio State 4. We know that they have some good battles in there. And at one point, they could play. Anyway, number 5, Cincinnati, moving up from 6. And now it's Michigan State, Michigan. It's got to be Michigan State, Michigan 6 and 7. Makes total sense. I think it's time to fire up the phone lines, don't you think? Let's do that. So bear with me here. Talk amongst yourselves. This committee wants Ohio State or Oregon to lose. They just do. I don't blame them. They want one of them to lose so that they don't have to decide that every week or try to figure out if Ohio State's resume is going to eclipse. This is dumb. Okay, they have breaking. Okay, there we go. Michigan over Michigan State. Okay, there's a lot of issues here. They now show their inconsistency. They can compare Oregon and Ohio State. They played head-to-head. We know the whole deal. If anything, the Michigan State win over Michigan, I know not as decisive as Oregon over Ohio State, and Michigan State won at home and not as decisive. But if anything, it's more valid. It's more valid because their schedules are so similar. Otherwise, Michigan, Michigan State, they both played Rutgers, and they both played Indiana, and they both played somebody in the Western Division, probably. Who have they both played? Anyway, they at least have two games. Nebraska, they both have played three. They have three common opponents, and that's going to go to 4 and 5 and 6 and very soon. So I understand where the Michigan State win over Michigan is less decisive, less impressive, was at home versus the Oregon win over Ohio State. But if anything, the resumes are more similar. That should keep Michigan State ahead of Michigan.
Thank you for calling Collin Studios.
Call screener line. Please enter your show. Enter your 6-digit PIN number. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Collin Studio web interface. All right. See what you guys have to say. Who's mad? Who's happy? Who's going to defend the committee? And I don't really know that the committee chair here is going to say anything. That they're really going to say anything that I'm going to say, oh, that really enlightens us. I don't think so. All right, I just have to change one setting and we'll be all set. Okay, he made a comment there. Remember this for later, Ohio State and Oregon people. He basically could not explain the Michigan State thing, and he summarized it by saying, we just felt they were better. Really? That's how you're deciding this thing? We just felt they were better. Okay. They don't feel Ohio State's better right now? Okay. Wow, that's a loaded comment that is just dumb. That's a dumb comment. Maybe I should have listened to the whole deal. All right, let's get to the phone lines. Appreciate all these super chats coming in. We've got a couple super chats. Let me honor those first. I hate when I miss these. You know it. Got to honor these people with their super chats and get these in. Let's get to them right now. Hang on. Where's the yellow one? It's a yellow one somewhere. I want to get to that one first because if I don't, then that one's going to get cleared off the board. I don't see it there anymore. So somebody sent one in. It's in yellow, and I can't get to that one, unfortunately. I can't post that to the screen, but I can read it. L. Duderino Lebowski says, imagine if Cincy was in the SEC West, imagine their record. Give Cincinnati Arkansas's record or schedule right now. El Duderino, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. I apologize that I cannot post it to the screen. I've made those explanations before that if it's too far in the past, I can't retrieve it to post it to the screen. But he is saying, imagine if Cincinnati was in the SEC Western Division. Give them Arkansas's schedule. It would be fascinating, would it not? All right. Super chat also coming in. Let me grab it. Man, a lot of comments. You guys are going crazy. Holy moke. Where are we? There we go. Thank you so much for the super chat there. Christ Savior 888. God bless Mark. God bless you as well, Christ Savior 888. Thank you so much for your contribution. It is so much appreciated. And people look into the number 7. It's a great number. Oh my goodness. It also brought to mind that despicable occurrence down in Houston the other day. Oh my word. Look into that one as well. Much more going on there beyond what we see on the surface. But Christ Savior 888, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Christ Savior 888, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. We appreciate that so much. Jesus Christ is Lord. Good word for the night. Thank you so much. Now let's get to the phone lines here at the Voice of College Football. First up, let's talk about it. Welcome in. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. It's Drew. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm feeling pretty good. I can't only call in when we win. I figured I have to call in when we lose as well. But I'm 12. I'm more than happy with that. So,
Drew, I would tell you that if you rooted for anybody else, I probably would say, I apologize. I'm sorry. I can't keep track of whom everyone roots for. And so my mind was blitzing around for about 5 seconds after you said that. Then I thought, yeah, this is our Wake Forest guy. This must be our Wake Forest guy. Okay, got it. Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I guess I should have said that, but yeah.
You know, I was rooting
Wake
for
Forest
you. I don't do a lot of rooting on Saturday afternoon. I really don't. For as much of a passion as I have for college football, I just love the sport. And I don't do a whole lot of rooting. I just talk about it with all of you. And I guess most of the rooting has left me. But except for Wake Forest, man, I wanted you guys to stay in this.
I did too. Saturday was rough, but just I guess I'll talk a little bit about Wake just because why not? You know, no one else is going to. But and also I will say before I start about that, everyone. I mean, I know there's other games going on, but NC State versus Wake is essentially a semifinal for the ACC championship game. Like It's 7:30 Eastern, I believe, this Saturday. I'm just saying, if your team's not playing, I would watch that one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But the UNC game was rough. This might be kind of a contrary opinion, but I actually don't blame our defense. And I know that sounds absurd. How they let up well over 50 points. How do you not blame them? But we all kind of knew it was baked into the cake. They're not very good, so it's situational at that point. And Sam Hartman, he threw 2 picks. He threw a really bad pick. I mean, the defensive player was probably offsides, but, at the end of the day, you still threw a pick. And Wake just didn't get the stops when they needed to. But I'm pretty confident. I think, like I said, I'm excited that we're still in it. At this point, I'm done talking about the college football playoff. I think maybe in a week or two, if everything goes well, I can talk about that again. But I will say, Mark, I saw you had an interview with a Wake guy. I definitely checked that out. That was a lot of fun. And even, I remember, I think it was after the Saturday call-in show, someone was like, finally, we can stop talking about Wake Forest. And you just made the little comment that you're like, well, I mean, even a one-loss Power 5 doesn't get let out typically. So, like I said, I don't want to talk about that.
Twice.
I'm just excited for NC State, and college football is a lot of fun. But one thing that I think is very cool and is kind of underrated, and most people won't care, but look at UVA Notre Dame, because to me, if UVA can somehow get that upset, that's like the trifecta for Wake, because we beat UVA, so it boosts our resume.
Yep.
Notre Dame, being the 2-loss team, inherently they have to drop. And what people don't like to talk about, and I'm not trying to I've made my thoughts on Notre Dame pretty clear. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame and Cincinnati are pegged together. They're two stocks that are pegged. So if one goes down, the other kind of has to go down. But for Cincinnati fans, what they realize is it's really, they can't let Notre Dame go down. So I would look at it as Wake builds their resume, Notre Dame has to drop, and then by definition, Natty will drop. But I'll let you go, Mark. I will say, not to just dig on Mr. Moneybags, but we should support this show. I'm a Venmo you a couple bucks. I know that I don't do the super chat thing. I'm a boomer, even though I'm 27. But I appreciate the show, and go Deeks.
Drew, let me say one thing before we let you go, besides thank you so much for that. And people can contribute all sorts of different ways that don't have to be financial, but I appreciate that support as well. I would cover Wake more. Fill in the blank. Wake, Purdue, Kansas State, Stanford. You can fill in all sorts of schools there. I love those conversations just as much. And actually, hey, I got to admit to all the people that are watching that are the elite fans, and that's most of the people that watch, I'd rather talk Wake Forest and even teams that aren't doing well. I'd rather talk those just because I'm sick of talking the other teams. But the reason I can't do that too much is because unfortunately nobody watches the video, and I make 13 cents off that video, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of business sense. So I gotta balance my own interests with good common business sense in terms of the content I produce. But I tell you, I enjoyed that conversation about Wake as well. Absolutely. But thank you so much for the call, Drew. And Wake taking on NC State, and I can't wait for that game either. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to watch it, and good luck this weekend. All right. Next up here at the Voice of College Football, who's on the line?
Marcus DeAndre, man. How
Thank you.
doing?
Thank you for your super chat. I appreciate that so much.
Now, your last caller that called in, you should have said that there's a guy that supports the ACC no matter what, even if it is Wake Forest. That's what you should have said. Because you're not always up to talk some ACC football. What up, Mark?
Yeah, I'm not quite following. I didn't quite hear that clearly. Okay, he supports.
I said the last caller.
Yes. Keep
last
going.
caller who was a Wake Forest fan, you should have told him there's a guy that always backs the ACC.
Oh, okay.
No matter what.
Yes.
Yeah, you should have told him that, because I rock.
I know you do.
No matter.
It didn't come to mind, but yes, I know you're an ACC guy, and I love that. I love, he made the comment about me talking Wake Forest last week and having a Wake Forest guy on here. If there were 6 of me and I could I recorded starting at 10 a.m. today, every half hour, boom, 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 boom. And I just can't get to enough teams. Plus, nobody watches those videos. But I love talking about different teams. I love it. I would talk about everybody.
It was a few years ago. I had season tickets to Wake Forest because Clemson was playing there. It was Deshaun Watson last year, and they had a heck of a home schedule. I think they had Clemson, Miami, Florida State, and Notre Dame. And that's a lovely stadium to watch a game in. I mean, I've been all types of stadiums from the Redskins, Pittsburgh, Carolina State, Clemson, and that's one of my places that I really enjoy watching the game because it's such a small atmosphere and it's just so lovely. And I think people would should love a game there. I know everybody wants to go to Michigan and Notre Dame and watch their game, but I mean, I think anybody should take a chance to go out there and watch it. But I just called about a curiosity question. I know Florida State, and Clemson all got the same amount of national championships, but my question is about Florida. Florida seems like they would do better recruiting. Is Florida State, and Miami's falling in that same category where because of Central Florida and South Florida, I know South Florida's not that good, but in Florida International, they're just not able to tap into the talent that they used to, or is it coaching?
Florida's issue with recruiting?
Yeah. You think that they have an issue with recruiting because of those other smaller schools like Florida International, Florida Atlantic, and Central Florida and Southern Florida? You think that's the issue why Florida's having some of the issues?
No. Because they're not fighting for the same players. So go to any list of any position, pick your position or go through every position and go to 247 Sports list of top players at that position. You know, your 32 best centers in the country, whatever. And you will see a natural progression from the very elite players, the very best. They're all signing at Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, etc. And then you'll see it drop when you get to like player number 10, 11, 12. Then you start seeing Michigan, Penn State, Notre Dame pop up, and then a little bit lower. Not that they're not grabbing top players either, but you'll just see a natural progression, and you'll see the programs just continue to go all the way down. And then you'll see near the bottom of the list, you'll see the FIUs and those teams, and maybe they won't even get on the board. So they're not fighting for the same players. I think Florida.
The reason why,
the
reason why I bring that up, because I'm assuming these schools didn't have programs in the 90s, and some of them were upstarts, and maybe the 2000s with Florida and Florida State and Miami were making their runs. I don't think none of these schools have programs. I think Central Florida might have, but those other schools didn't have programs. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So remember the joke in the ACC was Florida State second team will finish second in the ACC back in the day.
Yes.
And the reason why I bring that up, because a lot of those players that might be at Florida, Central Florida, Florida International, Florida Atlantic, they will be backups compared to starting at those particular schools on those three rosters. I already told you why I think Florida State fell off. I think because they used to tap into LSU, and David came in there and blocked it off and stopped a lot of Florida State players from leaving and going to leaving Louisiana, going over to Florida State. But I think that has a lot to do with it. That's why I was asking.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna. It's just not a good. It's not the conversation to have tonight. We got about 280 people on the line, and I guarantee that none of them care about Florida recruiting right now. So we're doing a playoff show.
Okay. Hey, yeah, man. Yeah, the playoffs not this year for me. But hey, Mark, hey, you get to everybody else, and hey, man, I appreciate the call in. I don't know something else I'm about to tell you about. I don't know what I was about to tell. Hey, I figured out I am here.
Call back anytime.
And, thank you, Mark.
All right, DeAndre. Appreciate it. See, my typical call-in show, call in about anything. We can talk about anything with college football, but obviously we're doing a watch party on the playoff reveal, the rankings. So let's stick to that because that's what people want to talk about. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hi, Mark. This is Ben. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ben. How's it going? Were you the first one in the chat?
Was I the first one? No, I was no, not in the chat at all tonight. Actually,
Oh, okay, that was another Ben then. Okay.
no, there's another Ben. Yeah, there's another Ben. Like something about Ben, something exploring. I remember.
Ben. Okay. Yeah. What's up tonight?
Exploring Ben. Yeah. Oh, anyways, hey, I want to agree. I agree with you on the. I'm not an Ohio State fan, as you remember, but I agree with you. Ohio State should be above Oregon. At least, I didn't watch I actually just watched your show. I didn't watch the reasoning of Oregon being placed above Ohio State. But
I never said that.
I cannot. I watched.
Wait a minute.
No. I thought you were quoting them.
Quoting the show about Ohio State and Oregon?
I thought you were quoting the show. I thought you were saying that I may have misunderstood, but I thought you were saying they were saying that Oregon looked better than Ohio State. Did I misunderstand?
Okay. Basically, what I said, which if I can try to review what I said, was this is my stance. My stance is always head to head. If two teams have the same record and they played, then I'm going to give the better ranking to the team that won the head to head. That said, this situation is challenging my stance. It is severely challenging it right now, and it will challenge it more and more and more as Ohio State's resume just goes through the roof and Oregon's continues to suck and suck worse because the Pac-12 is just beyond awful. But when I was making this statement that the AP voters, not these rankings over here, this is before it was revealed, the AP, for some idiotic reason, I don't understand these people. And obviously they, I'm sure, have all sorts of intelligent people voting in the AP, but they also have some knuckleheads. For some reason, based on that Washington performance, they leapfrogged Oregon over Ohio State this past weekend. And I just believe that nobody watched football or didn't understand what they were watching this weekend. Why this was the weekend to do that? Yeah, I don't get it.
Well, this is the same group of people, I think, that still had Cincinnati number 2 after playing that Tulsa game.
Yes, and Navy and Tulane.
That's ridiculous. But I would agree. I mean, I personally think that Ohio State, far better. I mean, when you look at it, and I agree with you on that. I mean, I know you have but at the same, the other thing is I understand. I think the committee's wrong there. I think Ohio State should be above Oregon, but I don't disagree with them with Michigan being over Michigan State. Not at all.
Why?
Because Michigan, for one, if you're talking, they have a similar, they have similar schedules, they're playing similar teams, and look at how Michigan's performed against teams they played. I know State has a head-to-head, but they did that at home. They did that after, they had a bye before they came in there, and before they played, and now the Big Ten admitting to several mistakes being made as far as the officiating is concerned in that game. So, I can understand it. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter. It's going to work itself out, and those two one could be over the other. It doesn't really matter.
Is it going to work itself out? Okay, so I'll let that comment go because in this matter, you're probably right. It will work itself out in the Big Ten. For all the people that say across the board in terms of the 4 playoff spots, you know what? It'll work itself out. Oh, my word. I want to address that comment, and maybe I'm just going to produce a video that's going to address the comment. It'll work itself out. I made the comment to somebody the other day. During a show, I made a comment because I read it in the chat the other day that it'll work itself out, and I made the statement, just because something comes to a conclusion doesn't mean it worked itself out. Meaning if I go to death row and I'm completely innocent, but I was incorrectly accused and charged and convicted, and I'm on death row and I get the electric chair, that's the conclusion. It worked itself out. There was a conclusion, but it was the wrong one. So that doesn't mean it worked itself out. If we come to the wrong conclusion,
the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Yes, there's going to come a day, the day after the championship games, that those 13 people are going to decide who makes the playoffs. That doesn't mean it worked itself out. That means they're going to have to tell us the 4 teams that make the playoffs.
Yeah. No, I actually rarely use that term, and I only use it in this case for what does it really matter with Michigan and Michigan State, which one's above the other one, because there's only going to be, if either one of them suffer another loss, they're out. If
you're right, it works itself out.
I guess there's 100 ways to play.
Because they all play. That works itself out in the Big Ten Eastern Division. Absolutely, it does. It works itself out. Yeah. They all play.
Yeah. But I agree with you on that state. I mean, I rarely use that. I'm not. There's been many times before, it didn't work itself out. I can go all the way back to Michigan tying Ohio State in 1973, where Ohio State gets to go to the Rose Bowl. They're both undefeated. They set for the tie. Ohio State goes to the Rose Bowl and gets national championship, and Michigan doesn't get a bowl at all in 6th place in the AP. Didn't really work itself out for Michigan. But yeah. But anyway, hey, that's just a comment I wanted to make. I'll let other people get a chat. I don't agree with Ohio State being under Oregon this time as well, and I do agree with Michigan. I could see it going either way. It wouldn't disappoint me.
Very good. Well, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it, Ben. Have a good night.
Oh, Mark, one more thing. I want to call another time and talk with you about the Harbaugh and James Franklin discussion to kind of continue on, because I think you were incorrect with a few of the statistics you were talking about. I would like to discuss that with you in another time if we can get a chance. I don't want to do it today because.
So I just want to clarify. You were the one that called about Harbaugh versus James Franklin. We had that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to continue that.
Yeah, I would love to continue that, because you're under the impression that James Franklin has less losses than Harbaugh since Harbaugh's been there, and he doesn't. He has more. I counted it up after I talked
Franklin
to you.
Has a better record since I said pick the year. You said 2016. I said James Franklin has a better record since 2016. Yes, James Franklin has been at Penn State longer than Jim Harbaugh has been at Michigan, 2 more years. And in those 2 seasons, James Franklin got off to a rough start. He went 7-6, 7-6. Yeah, his record overall is not as good as Jim Harbaugh. But since they've been coaching at those respective schools, Franklin's record is better than Harbaugh's.
Yeah, since they've been coaching.
He's accomplished a lot more.
No, since they've been coaching. He has more losses.
He doesn't have more losses. He's got a better record than Jim Harbaugh. Do the addition. He's got a better record than Jim Harbaugh.
I counted him up, man.
He's accomplished.
I counted him up.
All right, we'll talk about it some other time.
Thanks
for the call.
Okay, we'll have to talk about it another time. I will.
Yeah, I just can't handle that anymore. It's not. It's right there on the internet. Just look it up. All right, it's close, but look it up. All right. Yes, James Franklin went 7-6, 7-6 his first 2 years. When I don't know something, I will tell you I don't know something. When I know something, I say I know it. Come on, call. Pick up. Welcome into the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Well, I got to talk college football rankings with the man that gives college football its voice, the great Mark Rogers.
David.
Hi, and how are you, sir?
I am doing just fine. How are you tonight?
I'm excellent. By the way, the one data point that Franklin obviously has over Harbaugh, actually 2. He beat Ohio State, and he has a Big Ten championship.
And he's won 2 New Year's 6 bowl games.
There you go. There would be a third data point that he has over Harbaugh, by the way. We'll throw that out there. But I want to get one other thing, Ben. I would say Ohio State did not win the national championship in 1973. They finished number 2. By the way, great Big Ten special tiebreaker. If you ever get a chance to watch it, one of the best things Big Ten Network ever did. Did you ever see that one, Mark?
I've seen it countless times. Yes, he was off on a tangent. I got to admit, sometimes I zone out. I wasn't listening to anything he was saying. So he said Ohio State won the 1973 national championship. Is that what I heard out of you? I had tuned him out.
That's what he said.
I don't know what he said.
Okay.
I heard 1973 in Ohio State, and all I could think of that point is we need to talk about the 2021 college football rankings. Let's get off the phone. So,
and that's what I'm here to do, Mark
Excellent.
Rogers. Let's get into it. I'm going to say this. First of all, I'm going to disagree with them. And I've said this, and I think I've said it to you before. I'm a lifelong Ohio State fan. I've been an Ohio State fan since 1986 when I saw Chris Carter and Chris Spielman, two of my favorite Buckeyes of all time, play football. And I must say, Mark, Oregon should be ahead of Ohio State. I watched the two teams play. I know Oregon plays in a bad conference, but they came to Columbus and they won. And they won, I wouldn't say they won the game handily, but they won the game pretty much. They led start to finish.
Decidedly.
Ohio State,
I use that term.
Yeah. What's that? You would say decidedly?
Decidedly.
Okay. I mean, it was obviously a competitive football game. I mean,
Yeah.
when you have the ball with the chance to drive down and you know, two legitimate chances to tie the game at the end. But you're right. I mean, Oregon led the game start to finish. Ohio State was playing from behind for, the entire football game. I mean, conversely, as we talked about with Sparty and the team up north, I would say this. When we watched that game, you listened to Steve Dace cry in his beer about it last week because the team up north blew the game. I mean, I watched that game from start to finish. If you look at it, I think that game was more about them losing than Sparty winning, in my view. I don't know if you felt the same way coming away from that football game.
Yeah, I thought I think Michigan State figured out Michigan's defense, that it held them to 2 touchdowns through about 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Michigan obviously had issues with personnel groupings, and why that was never talked about or knowledge of the college rules is a bad one on their defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, and the coaching staff. And yeah, most games are more lost than they are won typically. So you're telling me that, yeah, it was a much closer game. Plus it was on the road for Michigan rather than Ohio State playing at home. It was not as decisive of a win as Oregon had over Ohio State. Absolutely.
So by that rationale, you do not have an issue with what the committee did as far as ranking Oregon, where they have Oregon, Ohio State, where they have Ohio State, Michigan, where they have Michigan, and then Michigan State, where they have Michigan State. Then,
okay,
correct.
Based on what we just stated, I shouldn't have an issue with it, but let me flip the argument and make a case for Michigan State versus Michigan, and that scenario versus Ohio State and Oregon. Ohio State and Oregon played in September, and it shouldn't matter when they played, but It's been a long time. They then separated and played completely different competition, where Michigan and Michigan State play in the same division. And they have already both played, in addition to themselves, Rutgers, Nebraska, Indiana. I believe I'm counting all 3 games that they've played a common opponent. And then in addition to that, they're playing like competition within these 2 divisions in the Big Ten. And so we do have a comparison to make to say, well, they also played these 3 common opponents. How did they do? Well, it's kind of inconclusive, meaning they both won by a field goal against Nebraska. Okay. We can go into the details of who played a closer game. And I would say that Sparty was more benefited from the outcome than Michigan, but they both won by a field goal over Nebraska. Michigan State won much more decisively against Rutgers than Michigan did. They beat them by 25 points, and it was a 1-score game at home for Michigan. Now, Michigan beat, who am I missing? Indiana,
Wisconsin,
this past weekend. No, they didn't
Okay.
both play Wisconsin. They beat Indiana more
Yeah,
decisively this past weekend as Michigan State struggled against. So you shake all that out, it's about even between the three common opponents. But I think it, in a sense, justifies that result a little bit more than Ohio State and Oregon playing and then playing just completely separate competition. It's just another way to look at it.
Well, yeah, I would agree. And Mark, I don't know if you've already done it. I haven't seen your conference rankings, but, and I'm saying this directly to the SEC people, the Big Ten is the better conference this year. I'm throwing it out right now, Mark. True or false?
I can't answer that question. I'd have to go one by one. I believe that the SEC has the two best teams. I believe they do.
I'm talking about depth, though. It's the depth
Sure.
of a conference right now. You look at it, you know, the Big Ten, you know what I mean? You have the division, which is solid. You have Ohio State. You have Michigan. You have Michigan State. Penn State's dropped off. I get that. But Wisconsin's coming on like gangbusters. Purdue just entered the top 25. So, I mean, you know,
but
that's pretty solid.
It looks that way, but what are we basing that on? Again, this is the problem with the whole argument of conferences is once they stop playing non-conference games, they're playing each other. So what's the aggregate record of the SEC? 500. What's the aggregate record of the Big Ten? 500. Everybody wins a game, loses a game. The only thing that determines of these conferences playing within the conference is how deep is the conference? Is it top heavy with a few really good teams, or is it a Clemson type ACC situation where they're completely better than the rest of the conference and the rest of the conference is a bunch of 7 and 5 teams, or what is it? That's all that truly tells us.
Well, right now, in your opinion, who's the third and fourth best teams in the SEC?
Number 3 and 4 in the SEC would be Texas A&M and Ole Miss.
Okay, Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Okay. I mean, well, that's why I was going a little bit with depth because I mean, you go Ohio State, Michigan State, and then I think Wisconsin's a solid 4. I mean, I think you know, and then I think you get a little bit more depth because Purdue's playing solid football too. I think it's very close this year, if not a slight edge to the Big Ten.
Okay, I can understand that. I respect that. It's not a joke of an argument. If it was, I'd be telling you that. I think it's a legitimate argument.
Right.
Count up the teams that you just named. What do we have? The 4 in the East, and then we've got Wisconsin, Iowa, Purdue as decent quality teams. If you include Purdue, you got to include Minnesota. They got the same record, and they beat them head-to-head. So what are we talking? 7 teams that – how do we classify that are quality teams? They're top 40 teams in the country. 7 of them in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, correct.
Then
those would probably be teams that you would probably reach in the top 40, yes.
That you could put out against almost anybody in the country and they wouldn't be embarrassed. There might be an exception. Purdue goes and plays Georgia and loses maybe 42-10. Yeah, there are exceptions, but generally they could go out anywhere in the country and not be embarrassed. Those 7 teams. Generally, in the SEC, you've got Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, Ole Miss. Those are the 4 teams that I'm very confident in being top caliber, top 15 teams in the country. Then after that, I guess number 5 would be
what, Kentucky, or would you go?
I would go the way they're playing right now. I'd say Tennessee, but the record doesn't show that. If you're gonna, you got that balance between who's playing well now versus who's got the resume. The resume would go to Kentucky, but your other 3 to match those 7 in the Big Ten, I guess, would be actually Arkansas. I'd go Arkansas, Mississippi State, and I guess Kentucky or Tennessee. Now you can't tell me that you would feel that confident with Minnesota and Purdue playing Kentucky or Tennessee.
So the Auburn is completely out after.
I forgot about Auburn. That makes the SEC deeper.
Right.
Oh yes, Auburn would be in that top 7. So you could kick out. I think I would stay in the Western Division and take Mississippi State, Arkansas, and Auburn as the next 3.
Well, I mean, would you say that like Auburn and Penn State, comparable teams, played earlier in the year? Penn State did beat them.
Yes. Absolutely.
That was a close game. It was at Penn State.
Oh, yeah. I think
So-
they're very comparable.
I'm just making the case. I think that the Big Ten, and that was kind of the thing that was giving me pause about Ohio State this year. It's just the schedule that they've coming up and this kind of gauntlet that they've got to have to run through the last 3 games and then a possible Big Ten championship game. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of good football teams. I think this conference is closer to back to where it was in 16 and 17 when I think you could make a case where it was right there as the best conference in college football.
I agree with you.
But I did want to say this. I wanted to get to this on the rankings. Are they still? Is there a path for Cincinnati, or does it have to be complete chaos?
Before I answer that, I'm going to complete our rankings just to say that third
No,
tier,
go ahead.
that
I'm sorry.
third and bottom tier in the SEC, I would take way over the Big Ten. I still have Tennessee, LSU, Florida. I'd go play those 3 teams and then the rest of the league against Rutgers and Illinois and Nebraska. Nebraska's playing well,
Okay.
but they're competitive. Anyway, Cincinnati, their path is go undefeated, hope Notre Dame stays 11-1, and there's a possibility for all sorts of carnage in the Big Ten. But they would need a 2-loss champion, I believe, out of the Big Ten. I don't think yeah, they do. You could get carnage in the Pac-12. I think their scenario is basically the Pac-12 and the Big Ten beat up on each other. And then you've got 2 teams in the SEC. You've got the Big 12 champion, Oklahoma, and you've got Cincinnati. That's their best hope.
I think they would. They would need a 2-loss Pac-12, 2-loss Big Ten, and then basically, I mean, it would just to where they could slide in the 4th slot. Maybe if Alabama beats Georgia, Oklahoma is an undefeated or even 1-loss champion, and then they could slip in as the 4th team. Is that what you're saying? Kind of situation?
Yeah, I'm basically saying since Oklahoma's undefeated, there's less of a chance that they're going to get pulled down to 2 losses. So it's more likely in the Big Ten just because of the difficulty of these schedules that they're going to have to play, plus the championship game. And of course, Oregon's on the high wire every week against really bad teams. So when are they going to lose? I don't know. But they still have a couple of games. I shouldn't even mention who Oregon's playing. It's like they don't even have to play anybody good to be on the high wire. So whoever they're playing, and I know it's Washington State this weekend, just wait for Oregon to lose, and that knocks them out, eliminates the Pac-12, and whatever happens in the SEC, 1 or 2 teams. Of course, they want 1 team selected in the SEC, helps their chances. The interesting comparison would be a really strong Big Ten champion with 2 losses, or an Alabama with 2 losses, with that second loss, of course, against Georgia, comparing them to Cincinnati. That's a nightmare.
Is this let me give you the only situation where the Buckeyes don't make it. Let me just put it out there. Oklahoma goes undefeated, which I think the committee's banking on Oklahoma to lose with where they rank them. I think they have it baked into the cake. I think that Oklahoma's going to lose. But let's say they go undefeated. Oregon wins out, and then Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Yep.
At that point, wouldn't that have to be your 4 teams? 1-loss Pac-12 champion Oregon, Alabama, Georgia, and you'd have to take an undefeated Oklahoma.
Yep. I've thrown that one out many times. That's Ohio State's worst case scenario in terms of winning all their games. Worst case scenario. Yep.
Yeah, because I've heard the Ohio State podcast people say all Ohio State has to do is win out.
No.
I'm like, no, there's a scenario where that happens. Now, I don't think that's likely to happen, but that could happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
I think it's fairly likely.
Oh, you think that's likely?
Well, I don't think it's obviously the probabilities are against any scenario. You could draw up any scenario. Obviously, there's a million other scenarios. So you go with the field over the one scenario. So it's not likely, but I think it's a likely scenario as much as scenarios come.
Nope.
Again, each one is only one of a zillion. That's a likely one, don't you think? Oklahoma goes undefeated. They win the rest of their games. They're winning them now. They're 9-0. They only have 3 left plus the championship game. Oregon continues to win. They're playing awful teams. Even Utah, this 24th ranking in the country, I don't get it. Utah, they just lost to Oregon State last week. The week before last, they've lost to San Diego State. Anyway, the Pac-12 is not good at all. So Oregon wins through, and then that Alabama-Georgia split where they both get in. I think that's, again, it's not likely. No scenario is likely, but it is one of the more likely scenarios. And if anyone thinks the committee is going to, I believe I lost everything here. My call-in system must have dropped the call. Is that what happened here? It appears so. Let's I apologize to David.
Thank you for calling.
Just hung up on us. I heard that beep, and usually that's just people calling me. That's just a personal call coming in, but it was not. All right. So hopefully the 3 calls that are on the line, and there are more, will stay on the line and still be there. All right. I will take the next call. And again, I apologize, David, but we'll move on with the phone calls here. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's the real MVP. How you doing?
I am doing well, man. What's going on?
Well, I'm not sure if you saw this, but the committee has lost their mind today.
I saw it. I witnessed it.
Listen, if you want to make a move like that, you have to at least pull the trigger for both of them. I would be less upset if Ohio State was above Oregon, as well as Michigan State above, or Michigan above Michigan State. But just doing one and the other, I mean, it makes no sense because Ohio State is so far and away better than Oregon compared to Michigan State.
Yep.
And
I almost think that they're setting us up. I think maybe they're having a good laugh in the back room thinking we're going to dangle that out there for as long as, and we'll just let people argue about it and be pissed off at us and wonder what we're doing. And then it's, any week they can pull the trigger on Ohio State. As long as Ohio State keeps winning, any week they can, boom, move them up past Oregon because they're going to be playing Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, and a Big Ten championship game. At any time they can say, whoop, that was the game that pushed their resume, boom, past Oregon. That made it so ridiculously one-sided that we can say, okay, that trumps the head-to-head, and now we move Ohio State. I kind of think that that's going to happen at some point.
I mean, it's much more likely today than yesterday. But this doesn't make sense as well from last week's rankings because Mississippi State was ahead of Kentucky. Wisconsin was ahead of Iowa. And both of them had not just the same record, they had an additional loss.
True
and still ahead of the team they beat.
True and true. Absolutely. And there was another one in there, wasn't there? Well, there was Oklahoma State and Baylor that had the same record. Baylor, Oklahoma State, and they had Oklahoma State with the same record and one spot ahead. Absolutely. You pointed that out last week very astutely. And to your point, not just even the same record, a worse record, and they ranked them above. And they're playing in the same conference.
Right.
So their schedules are very close. Where Ohio State's playing this massively tougher schedule than Oregon.
And Oregon's looking a whole lot worse than Ohio State, and Oregon has the much easier schedule as well.
Yeah, every week they look terrible.
Right. I think, and I've got to throw this out here for the back half of the thing, the top 25. I mean, it's not the beautiful part that we all talk about. How in the world is Utah ranked?
I don't know. As soon as I saw that, I couldn't believe it.
I mean, I thought the FPI having Utah ranked in the top 25 was insane. I mean, are you kidding me?
Who is Utah beaten?
It feels like
they haven't beaten anybody any good.
Nobody.
Yeah, they've beaten no one. They got to play BYU out of the conference, and they lost. And they lost to Oregon State the week before last. Oregon State. Yeah, I don't know. Who's their other loss? Utah, BYU, Oregon State. They lost to somebody else bad. Somebody else in the Pac-12.
Some irrelevant team.
Who else did they? Oh, they lost to San Diego State.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
they're ranked at least.
Yeah. But again, who's San Diego State beating? Yeah.
They beat Fresno State. Fresno State's better than any win Utah has.
How? And, if Utah was, again, to your point, let's say they had a better record, then I noticed Arkansas below them. I don't have the rankings in front of me. Somebody else was there.
UTSA was ahead of them.
Okay, well, that's another deal. But Arkansas, is the committee really looking at Utah's schedule against Arkansas's? Texas, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Georgia. Let's have Utah play Georgia. Let's put Georgia on their schedule, and Mississippi State, and LSU and Alabama are coming up.
Right. Gosh. And also, Houston needs to be ranked.
Yes.
Swap UTSA out. Put Houston even at 25. They're 8-1. Their only loss was in week 1 from a come-from-behind victory against Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech, this world-beater team, no. But they're a decent team, and Houston has dominated most of their schedule. They beat SMU, who's a better win than Utah has, a better win than UTSA has. I mean, the disrespect the American Conference is getting. I know I'm not going to be one of these conspiracy theories that say, oh, they're doing it because they want to get rid of Cincinnati. No, it's not. Stop it. It's not that deep. But it is kind of embarrassing from all accounts.
They're very disconnected too. And this is not a bad thing, but it's just kind of strange to watch because, I at one point pulled the trigger on Houston as well a couple of weeks ago. Bam. Okay. They're in the rankings. And again, like we discuss all the time to Real MVP, that it's a different and a difficult judgment to make because you're ranking, like you're looking at Arkansas, plays this killer schedule. You're looking at Houston thinking, okay, they play a bunch of okay teams. How do you weigh that against each other? Because it's not close. So at one point I decided, okay, Houston's, and it involves other teams too. It involves other teams losing to provide that opening for Houston to be ranked. But I noticed the AP, and I'm sure the coaches polls close, they've got Houston pretty far into the rankings. They're not like 23, 24. They're like 17.
Yeah, I think USTA, they were 16 last week. I haven't checked this week, UTSA. So they might be 13 or 12 at this point.
They're 15 and Houston's 17.
Oh, well.
And the AP, they moved up Houston after they did not look good. They beat South Florida. They gave up 37 points, and they moved them up 3 spots.
Well, it's hard because of the schedule differences, but UTSA being ranked, I mean, if you want to give them a little carrot and say, fine, give them a little ranking for a week and then get them out the next week, I guess I would understand it. But this better not be a trend with UTSA being ranked because they don't deserve it. I mean, their non-conference schedule is horrible as well. Their best win is against Illinois.
Yes, by far.
Yeah, it's not even close.
They beat Western Kentucky by 6 points. They beat UNLV by 7 points. They beat Memphis by 3.
And UNLV might be as bad, is on the same level as UConn, UMass, Vanderbilt bad. Like Iowa State went up into UNLV and beat them like 50 or something like that. It's dreadful. Dreadful. Now, here's something I'm going to ask you, Mark. This is speculation.
Okay.
I know you don't.
Then I'm
like
going to move on. All righty.
So I'm just
speculation. Yep.
If Oklahoma beats Baylor, will they jump Cincinnati? Because I don't think they will.
Well, who's Cincinnati playing this week? Who's their next killer opponent? Who are they playing?
Yeah.
East Carolina or somebody? You got to give me a Cincinnati
Some
result.
juggernaut.
What are they doing?
We'll just say they win. We'll say by 10 this time, since they keep struggling.
Yeah, I don't know, but they will leap Oklahoma over Cincinnati at some point. They keep winning. There's just no way. I've got them way ahead of Cincinnati already because their schedule is so much tougher. I know Cincinnati beat Notre Dame. Cincinnati has one better win than Oklahoma. Oklahoma's got like the next 2 through whatever wins over Cincinnati. It's not even close. And it's just going to become, it's almost like an Ohio State, Oregon comparison. It's going to become a complete joke because Oklahoma's playing Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and then a Big 12 championship game. They are playing 4 quality teams in a row, all of which are better than anybody Cincinnati plays except Notre Dame. So that they're going to jump them either this week or next week. That'll be my prediction.
Right. And if you're an Oregon fan, and I mean, part of me feels, and they're playing horrible and they're not helping their case at all, but what do you tell Oregon if they go 12-1 or left out of the playoffs? Because they win and they did what the committee has asked them to do and schedule a really good opponent on the road, and they won that game.
Absolutely.
So does Oregon just say, screw it, we're scheduling an FCS opponent?
Maybe.
We're scheduling Bowling Green now.
Maybe.
And
all right, man.
Do you think that would, sorry if I'm taking too long. I'll see you later, Mark.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the call. Just, so I have no idea how many people are on the line. I only see the person on the line and then the 2 people behind them. So a total of 3 calls. So there could be 30 people on the line. So we need to keep moving here at the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hello, can you hear me just fine?
I can. What's going on?
Hey, Mark. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Who am I talking to?
All right. My name is Gabriel, and I remember calling you like a couple of weeks ago. And the first 3 reactions I have from those weeks ago now is wow, wow, and wow. I mean, I think those are 3 words that's on everyone's mind right now. Just comparing 5 weeks ago to now, so much chaos. I mean, this college football season is arguably one of the best. And I understand that the committee, is everyone's jumping on the committee. But, I mean, you got to tip your cap to everyone that's been surviving so far this chaotic season. I mean, it's unbelievable at this point.
Yeah, it's been fun. And I try to not be too critical of the committee. They do have a difficult job. And for every decision they make to have one team over another team, you can make you can make all sorts of different arguments for the other teams typically. I just don't like when they're inconsistent and when they change when the committee chair tonight can't even explain why Michigan State's behind Michigan, and he finally gives up and just says, we just feel Michigan's better. Well,
absolutely.
So,
So, what I wanted to discuss today is, so many things. I mean, the last time I talked to you, I was basically saying the possibility of Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston and BYU go to the Big 12. Oh, well, that happened. So they're all going to the Big 12, I think, in 2023, 2024. And I think by that time, Oklahoma and Texas will still be in there because they said they're not leaving to the SEC until 2025. But, wow. Right now I have my tablet here with me. I'm looking at the rankings and I'm looking at all the schedules. And it's just crazy what's happening. I mean, you got the Big 10 that could potentially eat itself up with Michigan going against Ohio State and Michigan State. I think going against Ohio State. Yeah, that's the game. And basically, I feel like what the committee is doing right now is basically setting the table. I mean, your last caller was talking about how Utah's ranked. I have no idea how Utah is ranked. I mean, that's just one thing that blows my mind. I would put Houston over Utah, but I believe the committee is doing that so they can set up the excuse for Oregon. Even though Oregon beat Ohio State, that was a nice win from Oregon, but we got to remind ourselves, Oregon lost to Stanford. Yes, I know it was in overtime, and yes, maybe the referees were a little bit off that game. Maybe they did a bad call or two, but mainly Oregon put themselves in that position to where that anything could basically happen. So I believe they put Utah ranked. If Oregon beats Utah, which I think they're going to beat them twice if Utah keeps winning, goes to the Pac-12 championship. If they beat Utah twice, they're setting things up for Oregon to be in the playoffs with Oklahoma going undefeated. I believe that Oklahoma will make the playoffs if they're undefeated. I mean, like, come on now. I mean, let's be realistic here. I'm looking at Ohio State. If Ohio State wins out, they're clearly in. Like, it's just so many of these teams that are in contention right now. It's just unbelievable. Like, and talking about very quickly about the Michigan State. I was watching ESPN thing when you were reacting to it live on stream, and basically, I think what they said was that they had like a half an hour debate about each team. While I don't, while I completely disagree with them putting Michigan over Michigan State because they claim that head-to-head, is a big balance. I can somewhat understand it from this point, and from the point that Michigan did lose to Purdue, that was unranked, but should have been ranked, honestly, in my opinion, but now is ranked. But that's the only play that I can see that makes somewhat sense. But overall, I mean, it's just like I'm speechless. I'm just speechless right now. I just don't know what to say.
Well, I appreciate the call. It's definitely a jumbled up mess, which makes it a lot of fun and a lot of debate about who should be where. But
yeah,
thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Think about this. Think about the logic involved here. This committee had Mississippi State number 17 last week. Number 17, not 24, 25, 17. Mississippi State played Arkansas over the weekend. An Arkansas team that the committee now has ranked, that was not ranked. Who knows how close they were to being ranked? They had to have been close, 26, 27, 28. Arkansas beat Mississippi State at home, a game in which Mississippi State missed a 40-yard field goal at the gun. And I didn't see the entire game. I was in and out. But apparently controversial calls, very close game, some iffy calls. Well, if Mississippi State just lost to Arkansas by that much on the road, doesn't that almost validate that they stay in the rankings regardless of their record? Whereas if that was a strong enough win to vault Arkansas into the rankings, doesn't that also substantiate Mississippi State somewhere staying in the rankings? And I don't have Mississippi State ranked, but they're close. I've got them very close at 5-4. That's a weak record, of course, but that's just not consistent. I did not have Mississippi State that highly ranked at 5-3. I had them near the bottom of my rankings and nudged them out. So it's a difficult process, but that doesn't seem to make much sense to me. A team 17, they lose to a team that you are now ranking based on that game, but you're going to take the 17 team and they're gone. That game came down to if we're making judgment calls on all these really close games like Michigan State and saying, well, the officials did this and Michigan was in control until halfway through the third quarter and it was on the road and all this other stuff. Well, the same approach should be given to each game. And that Mississippi State loss, 31-28, missed a last-second field goal, questionable calls on the road. Also, let's understand, and I know you guys have the right thought, and I will use the same term many times when I say a ranked team. what I mean to say, and I say it most of the time, is a quality win versus a non-quality win. Like I don't believe there's much separation between the, let's say, roughly 20th best team in the country and the 40th best team. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference there. So just because a team's ranked or they're unranked doesn't automatically just take it from being a quality win, a team, a game, a win that we should value and say, well, they beat a ranked team, to suddenly, oh, the team's not ranked, it doesn't matter, and we don't even bring it up. No. Actually, if we want to do this fairly and really look at the quality of wins and losses, really, this would be a pain, but we should rank every team in the country. There's nothing magical about being 25 versus 26. There's nothing magical about that. We should rank every team in the country. And then we would just say, well, they're 25 and they're 26, just like they're 37 and they're 38, or they're 89 and they're 90. It's the same thing. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Oh, this is Jeremiah.
Hey, Jeremiah.
I'm not technically talking about the playoff rankings, but I was talking about the news that happened today with Texas. If you're okay with that, or you want to talk about the rankings.
Well, yeah, let's be quick with our Texas comment. What happened with Texas today?
So, yeah, as you know, at Iowa State when we got demolished,
Yes.
Apparently a player recorded a coach after the game, basically telling players that don't perform well to just get off the team and hit the transfer portal immediately, and using a lot of expletives to about them. I mean, I actually kind of thought the comment was okay, but some people think in the media didn't like the fact that they were talking like that with the players. I know you probably haven't heard of that yet.
It's strange because unfortunately we recorded a Texas segment, but that was at like 11 in the morning. So this must have come out after. Texas coach comments. Do we know who the coach is?
Bo Davis.
Okay. Oh, Bo Davis.
That was on Twitter.
Yeah, I can't find it. I can't find it here.
There's a lot of links on Twitter, but I don't think you can post it to YouTube yet.
Yeah, I can't.
No, I think there is a video on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, if you want to watch it.
Yeah, I can't. Okay, here we go. Bo Davis.
All right.
Bo Davis, what the Bo Davis rant says about the current state of Texas football. Well, hopefully the comments are in here. So, choice words following Texas's no-show in Ames. Refreshing to hear someone with some passion for winning other than the old winning is hard BS. So, basically, let's see here. Okay, so he's screaming at the players. Basically, you played like garbage. I don't like the effort. Get in the transfer portal. Well, yeah, I don't think it's the best message to be telling the players. In terms of the screaming and shouting and cussing, that happens in every locker room in America constantly. So I'm not that taken back by that. I know a lot of people will be, but they never played football or didn't have a son or anyone in their family play football. So anyway, and I'm not saying that justifies some type of abuse. So we can take that in some other direction some other time. But in terms of him saying that, I think that there are better ways to communicate to people and better ways to motivate them than I think that's, in the heat of the moment, he says this about the transfer portal. Maybe he regrets it. Maybe he does not. I don't know. It seems to be, I don't want to call it inappropriate, but not the best coaching in the world. There are better coaches out there that can communicate more effectively to their players than this gentleman, apparently. their offensive line coach, who their offensive line's awful. I do know that.
But I think he's a defensive line coach.
I'm sorry, defensive line coach.
Kyle
Okay.
Plesdale.
All right.
Yeah, because he got in the room and the players were like apparently laughing after the game
Okay.
and you know how the Longhorns in the past 4 games and then blowing in the second half, and he kind of just lost it.
Well, I remember hearing a
He's
speech
like,
from a football coach one time, and this was my football coach, and this was like in 9th or 10th grade, where he was upset that we were riding home on the bus following a loss, and guys were joking and all that sort of thing. And then so he blew a gasket and started screaming at everybody. And at one point said something about we should be treating every loss like our mother just died. And we all kind of, didn't show this to him. But later we were like, that's ridiculous. We were being the more mature ones than the coach who's telling us we should treat a loss in some kind of junior high or high school game like a loss to, of our a family member, our mom. So that's a stupid thing to say, but yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Call back anytime.
All right. Thank you for the information. Thank you.
All
right. Bye.
All right. Next up here, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? I would have to listen to the entire rant to give some kind of an opinion on it, but that's my basic opinion, that I'm not that startled or shocked by the language or what he said. So he mentions the transfer portal. I think that's kind of a stupid and ineffective way to coach people and communicate, but he said it. All right. Welcome into the voice of college football.
Hey, Mark. How's it going?
Good. Who's on the line?
This is Exploring with Ben.
Oh,
the
hey,
only
Ben.
The
What's going on?
one.
Yes. First in the chat. It's 7:36. Love it.
Sometimes you have nothing better to do when you're just packing up your apartment and ready to move up north.
Oh, okay.
I want to kind of correct you. Washington is not a terrible team defensively. Offensively, yes, they're terrible.
True.
That there's no doubt there.
Yeah.
That's why they fired their offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And I don't know. I think you watched some of the game. You commented on that. There was another comment earlier. Like that was like a monsoon.
Yeah.
So they couldn't throw the ball at all.
Absolutely. Here's my counter to that.
It's a rivalry game on the road.
My counter to that is that this happens every week. I totally understand. Nobody marches through their schedule, even against the marginal teams, we'll call them. A marginal team, is that fair? They're a top 50 or 60 team in the country. Something in that range. Maybe. Something in that range. I would expect a team like Oregon, a team that's going to be selected to go to the playoff, fill in the blank, Oregon, Ohio State, Oklahoma, any of those teams, if they have got a 12-game schedule and they play 2 or 3 really tough games, and then they've got 2 or 3 really easy ones, and then they've got a 6 or 7 game stretch of Washington type teams that they play. Fill in the blank. Washington, Illinois, Kansas State, those kind of teams. That a team that's going to be selected to go to the playoff, no, they're not going to hammer all of them 52-7, all 7 of them. But probably 3 of those games are going to be decisive 5-touchdown wins, and maybe 1 or 2 are going to be solid 21-point wins, 31-10 type wins. And then maybe one time they get pushed, or twice at the most they get pushed. Oregon's getting pushed every week by lousy teams or marginal teams. Arizona, Fresno State, Cal, Washington. Who am I missing? On and on. UCLA's not even that good at this point. They're proving not to be that good. We got all excited about UCLA when they beat LSU to start the season, but UCLA's not even that good. They're 5-4 in the Pac-12, and Oregon barely beat them. And if Dorian Thompson-Robinson doesn't get hurt the last drive of that game, he had just completed 2 fourth-down passes to keep that drive going. I don't know if Oregon wins that game.
Yep, those are all very fair points, and trust me, I'm in the consensus that Oregon plays to their opponent's level, which is not an excuse. It's an unfortunate reality.
But that's a bad reality. That would be like me saying I think Illinois should be in the playoff because they lose games and they figure out how to lose the games. They shouldn't play down to their opponents. Maybe once or twice a season they should do it, but the rest they shouldn't be doing it every week.
I agree completely, but I do agree with your. I think it was your last caller who said, oh, Utah ranked, which is a little surprising to me. I knew Purdue would get in. I didn't see Utah getting in. But Utah did just run wild on Stanford. I didn't even finish the game. I was bored by halftime.
They ran wild on who?
Run over.
They ran wild on
Stanford, the tree.
I know. That's
tree.
I watched part of that game.
Yeah.
I was going to settle in for some great late night football, and I was out by 10 minutes into the game because it was such a joke. So that's great that Utah beat Stanford 52-7. That's what they should do, but can I really credit that as some type of great accomplishment? No. Stanford's they're awful too.
No. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with your last caller saying I think the committee is trying to find a way to buy themselves out a little bit because now Oregon will have to play Utah. So if they win, they go, oh, they got a top 25 win. Probably play them again. The championship, which we know, winning any game on the road is hard for a lot of teams, but playing a team twice is really hard to win. I don't know. It's very weird. I don't agree with the Michigan State lower than Michigan. That's totally changing their whole premise they've had already week 2. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is. The season will play out. Everyone will argue over the rankings, but Mark, you look tired. Get some sleep.
No, these conversations are giving me a ton of ideas for videos that I need to produce.
Well, again, you have to go back. You have to go back and look at the strength of schedule, strength of record video that I gave you the idea for the other night. Because that will give you a migraine.
Where did you give that to me?
That was maybe a week ago, where I said when the first playoff rankings came out, I said Oregon had like the 20th strength of schedule, but Ohio State had the 74th, and you were like, "Where did they get these numbers from?" And I was like, "Yeah, do it, because you'll wreck your brain trying to figure that out."
Yeah, I will wreck my brain. All right, Ben.
All right, Mark.
Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Have a good one. I may legitimately look tired, but I think when he made that comment there, I was just exasperated looking at Utah's schedule and the results. Their best win's Arizona State. All right, well, how good are they? They're a top 50 team. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
This is Josh. Are you there?
Hey, Josh. What's going on?
Not much. I wouldn't say you look tired. I say you look focused.
Focused. I love that.
Figure all this mess out.
I'll take it.
To figure all this mess out. There's a few questions I have. I mean, when it comes to, the strength of schedule thing and all this plays into, and, these other teams will be playing good teams on these out-of-conference games just to bolster the record. I mean, Oregon's proven that this year. But for Oklahoma fans, their best win was, whoever, Kansas State maybe. But they had Nebraska scheduled, out of conference. So I think OU fans maybe be blaming Scott Frost a little bit for not having his team better, more higher ranked, because if he would have, you won that game like they did, well, there they go. There's their quality win. And I guess I'm trying to say is that, if these teams want to say they should be ranked higher, this, that, do you think there should be some sort of agreement between conferences to schedule stronger games between each other, every year on the non-conference thing, just to kind of help measure out how good these conferences are? Like SEC and Big 12. These teams have to schedule one game with the other conference, every team.
So basically you're setting up what we see in basketball, like a Big Ten ACC challenge, where every team in the Big Ten is going to play every team in the ACC. They're going to play one game.
Yeah, along those lines. Yeah, along the line, and bring in the Pac-12 if they want to come along too. But
I wouldn't want the entire conference to be forced to play just one conference. I understand what you're saying, but every team's doing that anyway. They're scheduling at least one Power 5 team from another conference. Everybody does that anyway. So just because they're going to play a specific conference.
And it's hard to tell how good that other team's going to be. Is it on the administration? I mean, if these teams schedule a team, they think, they're going to bolster our record if we win this game. That's my question is, like, are they really scheduling good games, or just people they think they're going to win against, or what's going to give them the best, attention?
Both.
Or are we getting real good competition in here?
Depends on the team.
Okay.
North Carolina State, they schedule teams in non-conference that are going to get them to a bowl game, where they can continue to go 3-5 or 4-4 in the ACC and beat Old Dominion and William and Mary and East Carolina in non-conference and get to a bowl game. That's their approach, because they have no shot at getting into any kind of playoff. If you're Ohio State, you schedule Oregon and Oklahoma and teams like that, because you figure we can beat them, or even if we lose, we need to schedule games like that. Let me mention one thing. To clarify your idea, are you meaning that, let's say the Big Ten and the ACC say our teams are playing this year? Do you base it on the last season schedule and standings? And so the ACC champ plays the Big Ten champ, and the number 2 team in the ACC plays the number 2 team in the Big Ten, and on down the line. Is that what you're looking for?
No, I'm more. No, not exactly. No, I don't think that'd be. That'd put the best games together, obviously, but I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I'd say stick everybody's name in a little, box and just pull it out. I'm saying random. Yeah, I'm not saying there's no appointed. Yeah, just you kind of just randomly do it.
But they're already. I'm not understanding the advantage to that, because every team in the Power 5 is already scheduling a Power 5 team. And I know somebody's going to jump on me. Not everyone. There's a Baylor out there, in a few teams here and there that dodge playing a Power 5. Yes, but 98% of them.
But are they scheduling games? Based on games they think they can win, or games that are just good for TV? Or I'm sorry, who's Alabama's big one out this year?
Alabama played Miami.
Concerned me with them.
Alabama played Miami.
Yes.
LSU played UCLA. Auburn played Penn State. Oregon played Ohio State. We can mention all sorts of games, and they're good games, and they're not so good games. It would be the same thing based on what you're saying. I don't know where the outcome's any different.
Is that, that goes back to the real comment, was that when they schedule these games, they don't know how good that team's going to be. So, and then when you get to this season, like you are right now, and like I say, Oklahoma maybe thought Nebraska was going to be good back then. Maybe Alabama thought Miami was going to be good when they scheduled these games 3 years ago. And then when they get to them, the other team's down, and it hurts their ranking. And that's where I'm confused at, is like, these teams are scheduling out of conference games. They're trying to do what they can, but they can't predict what their opponent's going to be like. And it goes back to the Nebraska comment. Nebraska is a very good team this year on every side of the ball except for offense and special teams. They have a little few issues there, and anybody can admit that. But it's kind of just a crapshoot. I get it.
My proposal is that the school should not be scheduling games anyway. So this has been my proposal for years, is that we should have a system to schedule the games, not teams running around trying to figure out who they're going to partner up with in 2038 to play, because that's when these games are scheduled 10, 15 years in advance.
Yeah.
No, a scheduling system.
You just answered
And
my
I built the
question, sir.
system. I'm not going to go through. I'm not going to go. We'll go through my scheduling system in the off season, because I understand I get new viewers all the time, which is great, and I appreciate that. So people haven't heard my scheduling system, but it takes it out of the hands of the schools, because, as you so succinctly said, they all have their own agenda. Well, take it out of their hands. They should not be scheduling their own games. We need a system, which I've built one that I think is fairly effective, to implement a fair and equitable schedule for everybody.
I completely agree. You just really answered my question, and that I'm glad that you have been thinking about a system, because that's the way it needs to be handled. You're correctly right. I 100% agree. I mean, you answered exactly what I was looking for.
Why can the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NFL all schedule games in the off season, and they have far more complicated schedules, especially Major League Baseball? Why can they get that done, and college football needs to be scheduling games 10 years in advance? No, it all should be done in the off season, after the season's over, then put the schedule together and release the schedule.
I think it's truly just deals between administrations at the time. They're doing things 3 years in the future, and maybe network, television could come into it too. Fox, ESPN, I think there's a combination of both, that they're looking for the biggest game, but they're predicting in the future. And you can't do that. You can't predict 3 years down the line what one team's going to be.
No.
You can't.
And shoot, 3 years, they schedule them 10 and 15 years in advance. And that's
where it even gets even worse.
And the TV networks, they have to contend with the NFL and Major League Baseball and all these, presenting them a schedule during the off season. And then they figure out who they're going to show. Well, no, the ratings have nothing to do with it. It's scheduling. All right. Well, I appreciate the call.
Thanks, Mark. You're great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the call. So the point I was trying to make there at the end is that the TV ratings have nothing to do with it. The TV ratings are going to be fine. They have nothing to do with when the schedule's released. And if ESPN, ABC, CBS, Fox, all of them can be given a NFL schedule in April or May, and then they have to figure out how they're going to schedule the games and put them on TV, and an NBA schedule and a Major League Baseball schedule, and they figure it out. They got plenty of time to figure out. They got months and months and months to figure out who they want to have on. Shoot, the TV schedules in college football aren't determined, except for very few games. 99% of the TV schedule in college football isn't determined until 10 days before the games are played. Go to a college football schedule for 2 weeks from now, and all it's going to say is TBD, TBD, TBD on every game. It might have 2 games scheduled. They can schedule the games like 8 days in advance in terms of what networks got it, what games. Now they know what networks have it, but what time they want the games to be on based on they're waiting to see these teams play to provide the best matchups at the best time slots. All right, here we go. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Who's on the line?
This is Kevin. How's it going?
Hey, Kevin. I'm doing well. What's going on, man?
Well, I am a Michigan State guy. I think I've called in before, but I do not want to talk about my boys in green, because that will just make me a little red. I would actually like to talk about, I don't understand why Penn State isn't ranked, actually.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I've got them ranked, I think, like 17.
Go ahead. It's just it doesn't make sense to me. The committee obviously has a little bit of a darling for Auburn, who they've beaten. Who else do they have a win over? Wisconsin, who is also ranked. And, Sean Clifford not being injured during the Iowa game, that probably game would tip in obviously the committee has a little bit of a soft spot for looking past injuries and maybe coaches being out with maybe teams like Oregon, but not a lot of love for Penn State. I just don't understand it. So it just kind of makes me upset because I see Michigan and Michigan State coming up in the schedule for both of them, and then it just doesn't seem like they're going to get a lot of credit if it's a win or a loss either way. So just really confused about that.
I would love, sir, to have the committee have to answer that question about Penn State. It makes absolutely no sense. All the points that you made are extremely valid. Take Utah. Utah has the same record as Penn State. They're both 6-3. Does anyone want to compare Penn State's schedule and results to Utah's? It's not even, it's a complete joke. Like, what are they doing? Penn State's had to play Ohio State, Wisconsin, Iowa, Auburn. They've played 4 tougher games than Utah's played. It's tough. Utah's best win is Arizona State, and they've lost to BYU and Oregon State. And who else did they lose to? San Diego State. Oh my word! There's no comparison between Penn State and Utah, and they're both 6-3. It's ridiculous. It's pathetic.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's a complete joke. Yes.
Yeah.
You're getting me fired up to produce a video and just like turn tables over and scream and say the committee's a complete joke. You're right. Nobody's bringing up Penn State because everybody's focused obviously on the national championship contenders in the top 10, but it's ridiculous. I
gotta give I'm a Big Ten East guy. Just gotta give all of them credit where credit's due. I mean, all of them played really hard against each other, and I mean, beginning of the year, just like Penn State was this like potential darling to win the Big Ten East, maybe. And obviously Ohio State's the team to beat, but I mean, everyone else, like if it wasn't Ohio State, it was Penn State's East to win. So now they're just getting no love just because Lippert was banged up for a little bit.
Yep. If Penn State had Utah's schedule, they'd probably be undefeated. They might have tripped up once. And I'm trying to figure out who they would have tripped up against. Maybe at BYU, maybe they're better than everybody on that schedule. But of course, each game plays out differently, and it's tough to go undefeated. But I'd have Penn State. I'd guess they'd be 8-1. I wouldn't be surprised if they were 9-0 right now against Utah's schedule.
It's just obviously Purdue being a 3-loss team and then like being ranked above the team that they beat, and just like I just don't understand what's going on at all with Penn State. It's just really a head scratcher. But yeah, obviously not happy that Michigan is ranked above State, but like that's so classic. Like I'm not even shocked anymore. It happens all the time with bowl games. Just why not with the CFP rankings? Just it is what it is. Everyone in the state of Michigan knows that Wolverines are the darling, Spartans are the underdog. It's the classic tale. It's the classic tale that I have all the time every year. So it is what it is. But
absolutely. So a number of people have commented on this. No, go right ahead. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I wasn't going to really say anything. Go ahead.
Well, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Call anytime. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Mark.
So there's a comment here that just mirrors a number of other comments that I just posted on the screen from, I can't see their name, Deshaun, I believe. Okay. Now I lost my train of thought. Shoot. I wanted to say it to the caller and then we moved on. But basically, the committee in so many instances has turned its back and contradicted itself on head-to-head. So as is being highlighted in this comment, Penn State beat Wisconsin and Auburn head-to-head. And it's not like they're one spot behind them or 3 spots, but they're completely off the board. Not in the top 25. And Auburn's what? 16? Something like that. Wisconsin's somewhere in that range too. And Penn State's not even on the board. So they're not even close. And so they are not honoring head-to-head there. And obviously the Michigan State situation as well. But I'll stay with this one here with Wisconsin, Penn State, Auburn, and others are involved. So they don't honor the head-to-head there. And those teams all play difficult schedules. Like those are SEC and Big Ten teams that are playing legit schedules. And they're not going to honor the head-to-head. In the Ohio State, Oregon situation, they're honoring the head-to-head, but the resumes are completely in different stratospheres and will continue to be, and even more so. And then to make this Penn State and Utah comparison is just mind-numbing. Got all the respect in the world for Kyle Whittingham. He's a great coach, leads a great program. He can't help that his conference sucks. And really, his team's not that good this year. This is not a vintage Utah team, if there is such a thing. They just don't have a good team this year. They should be wasting this schedule. If they're the 24th best team in the country, they should be laying waste to this awful schedule they play. They're not. They lost to Oregon State last week. Penn State's played Ohio State, Iowa, Auburn, Wisconsin. They are, and if they want to say that they're penalizing Penn State for losing to Illinois, that's fine. That's part of the resume. That's part of the conversation. That's part of the ranking. It's one of 9 games. It should be taken into consideration and should affect Penn State. But if they're getting kicked out based on one game, then these people don't know what they're doing. Yeah, there it is. Probably losing to the Illini. Yeah. So basically, we're building playoff resumes and we are discounting other teams and kicking them out of the rankings based on one game. Now, one game could decide it between two teams, obviously, if they're razor close, but they're defining seasons. Cincinnati on the Notre Dame game. They're defining Penn State season, apparently. I'm going to blast tweet every... Can somebody give me like a lineup of everyone on the committee? I could probably find that. And I'm going to blast tweet all of them and say, you need to be on the Voice of College Football answering questions, which they won't respond. They're tied to ESPN, and I don't know if they answer any other questions with anybody else. And obviously, they only have one. This would be a major issue. If you could speak to every committee member, then we would truly uncover all sorts of contradictions. And that's okay because each individual votes for themselves and has their own opinion. So that's fine. So we would hear things out of their individual mouths that would contradict their composite rankings. And again, that's fine. When 13 people get in a room to make decisions, they have to leave with a consensus and have to leave with a decision. And that doesn't mean everybody agrees with that. Shoot, I lived that life for 19 years at ESPN, getting in a room every week with other managers and hearing all sorts of great ideas, awesome thinking, amazing proposals, and then hearing idiotic comments and idiotic proposals and moronic statements. So you get all of it, and then you figure it out, and you leave the room, and you have a consensus, even if it wasn't truly a consensus, and you present that to the world. So obviously, 12 of the 13 committee members would never say anything to anyone because they agree that they have the chair who comes out with his talking points and then presents it because they don't want to show this contradiction. But I only heard one thing out of the guy's mouth, and that was the response to the Michigan State situation. And the best he could do was, we just feel Michigan's better. McD, come on, you're better than that. If you watch Penn State play, they didn't look like a top 25 team against Maryland. Okay. We could take every team in the top 25. We could go through their schedules, and we could point out a million examples of teams that are in the top 25 that did not play like top 25 team. It's not about one individual game. It's about a resume. It's about 9 games. Penn State is one of the 25 best teams in the country, and they have one of the top 25 resumes in the country. Okay. Tons of great comments from all of you. A lot of astute statements made and questions and a lot of great stuff there. And we still have a healthy crowd here, but nobody's calling. That's it. I wonder if my phone line dropped again. Nope, we're healthy. We are still running. And let me get to what you guys have to say here. Oh, got a super chat. Appreciate that from David. Thank you for your super chat contribution, David. Appreciate that so much. Go Buckeyes. Thanks, Mark, for your show. It's better than the SEC bias at the 4-letter network. I'll just leave that stand right there. I don't want to be critical of any particular network or be critical of that relationship or be critical of the SEC unless there are specific situations in which I hear something stated during a show, and then I'll say, okay, that was screwed up. That's dumb. That doesn't make sense. That's not logical. And then I will take it from there. But in terms of a broad statement, I certainly appreciate your super chat contribution. And I hope, I don't necessarily completely believe, part of me believes that the powers that be are doing everything they possibly can to make the right decisions, the fair and accurate decisions, and not decisions that are based on TV ratings and money. Or hopefully nothing else beyond that. You know, I would almost hope that if TV ratings and money come into play in these decisions, and I think they do, whether it's conscious or subconscious, that those decisions are made rather than some kind of political decision or relationship involved. For example, at one point in our history as a country, not too long ago, I'm just talking about a few years, the one knock against most corporations was they're just in it for the money. And that was basically the biggest slam that the consumer would place, or we as a American public would put on a particular company, is all they care about is the money. Like, I actually wish we could say that about most of these corporations now. They have all sorts of political agendas that come even in the face of losing money, making poor decisions, business decisions, just to hold up some kind of stupid political or social agenda that doesn't do anyone any good. All right, I'll not get off on that, but anything else here, folks? I do appreciate it's great to have like close to 500 people in here. Would love to have you all back on a regular basis. So we typically do call-in shows on Monday at some point. Usually I go before Monday Night Football or after Monday Night Football, because I know most of you like to watch the NFL as well. Now I'm going to get a bunch of anti-NFL comments, and that's fine. But usually we go Monday night before or after the NFL game. Tuesday with this playoff rankings, we'll take that through the end of the season and the playoff rankings. We typically do Thursday and Friday nights as well. And of course, Saturday after all the primetime games. Everybody that's here right now, we would love to have you after the Saturday primetime games who come on about 11:30 Eastern time after the primetime games and have a great time talking college football and wrapping up the weekend with all of you. And check out my top 25 that actually makes sense, because even though there are a few people in the comment section that say this doesn't make sense, you're an idiot, there's always going to be that, of course, and that's fine. I would rather have people that think I'm an idiot tell me why, not just leave the statement and then go, because they're probably not equipped to have that debate. So man, I've got so many ideas now from talking to all of you. You guys have done an amazing job of bringing up all sorts of topics and arguments, many of which I already had in my brain, but others that I did not have in my brain concerning this situation and other connected situations in college football. And I don't know if I'm going to get to those, because my recording schedule tomorrow is I'm trying to get all these games previewed, and we got 25 channels. So many of you who are watching us right now probably don't know we got tons of channels. We've got Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Texas, Notre Dame, Oregon, USC, the SEC, Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Clemson, and Miami. So I'm recording all day trying to supply content for all those channels. My vision, the way I want to run this, is I want this main channel to be focused on national topics. I want to be talking playoffs and conference rankings and national topics every day. And if something big happens with a coaching search or anything like that, to be focused on this channel, and use the other channels to focus on those specific teams and conferences. However, I run into days like today when I'm recording all day from 10 in the morning until I'm doing this live stream pretty late at night, that then I don't have time to really focus on trying to produce a video for the main channel. So that's why you will see the more popular teams pop up on the main channel as well, just because I would like to get at least one video posted per day. Join us on Patreon, folks. It's $5 a month. So this is what you get for $5 a month. You get my picks, 13-8 against the spread last weekend. I pick all the top 25 games. And I am 120-77. That's significantly higher than 60% against the spread. So I'm not an expert. I'm not a bookie or odds maker, but I just watch a lot of college football, and I kind of do fairly well picking games, and always have. Just that's the way it is. Am I the best you'll ever find? No. Am I really good at it? Yeah, I actually am, and have been for like 40 years. And the really, really good guys that like do it 60 hours a week and crunch numbers nonstop all the time, those sites, they're going to cost you like $1,000 a season. So do the math. Anybody who loves to wager, do this for me. Take 77 losses times 100. Like if you put $100 on each game, take 77 times 100. That's 7,700 that you would lose. But then take the 120, multiply that by 91, because that's how many dollars you win outright net with a winning bet. $100 bet, $91 on a $100 bet, 91 cents per dollar. 120 times 91. What's that? That's like, it's like, shoot, I can't do the math. It's like, it's almost $1,100. So take the 1,100 in winnings, or actually 11,000 versus the 7,700, and you get your net winnings. It's about $3,500 with my picks. All right. Or if you went $10 per game, then you'd make about $350. $5 a month. You get my picks, and you get the picks from 20 media members. So not just my picks, 20 media members, including Steve Dace, who's really good at picking the games as well, and others. And also we get Steve Merrill's under the radar pick of the week. And we know not everyone's into wagering, so we will address that during the off season, but that's what we've got right this second. And actually, we have a benefit to all our Patreon members that they can request one live stream per week. Per request, I will deliver it, one per week, on whatever topic you want. So join us on Patreon. Just go to Patreon, search Mark Rogers TV, or go to any of the videos and just grab the link. And also, folks, man, while I got 400 of you here, when you shop Amazon, please use the link that we provide. It's the same exact shopping experience. So I know that Christmas is coming. I know that most of you are on Amazon. Just the statistics tell us that's all there is to it. Out of the 400 people I'm talking to right this second, 200 of you will be on Amazon sometime in the next week or two. That's actually statistically proven. It's crazy. I wish I had that kind of monopoly. But credit to them. They know how to run a business. Grab the link that we provide in the description section, and it's the same shopping experience. Doesn't cost you a penny, but I'll get a few pennies from your purchase. But it's not going to cost you any pennies. Amazon gives those to the voice of college football, so we can continue doing what we love to do and what hopefully you guys love. I say this all the time. Best discussion, debate, and analysis, not because of me, but because of you and me working together. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. And is that true every day? No, but we're working on it. We're going to get better. We're going to improve. I've got so many things on the front burner and the back burner to implement here at the Voice of College Football. Tons of things. And we could use a sponsor or 2 or 5 or more. But let's start with one sponsor, one legit sponsor here at the Voice of College Football. So I can get all sorts of sponsors that will give me stuff to push, but they don't pay. So I can get all sorts of sponsors with all sorts of folks. I get sponsorship offers almost every day, but they're basically like, we'll send you $100 worth of our stuff and you talk about it. Well, I don't want $100 worth of your stuff. I want you to pay me. So that's the problem with the sponsorships. I want legit sponsors here at the Voice of College Football. So if you've got any connections with potential sponsors, please hit me up at MarkRogersTV@gmail. All right. Anything else from you folks? Appreciate everyone being here. We're back at it Wednesday, 1:30 Eastern, Ohio State Buckeyes live. 5 o'clock Eastern, Michigan live. 6 o'clock. 6 to 8. Folks, we've got a 2-hour special coming up tomorrow night. So on the Florida State and Miami channels, they're, of course, playing this week. Miami, Florida State, one of the great rivalries in college football. So we are going to simulcast and go for a full 2 hours. And the word again would be simulcast on 2 channels for 2 hours on the Florida State and Miami channels from 6 to 8 Eastern. And we're bringing the Florida State boys and some of the Miami folks together. Should be a whole lot of fun. Join us at the Voice of College Football, 6 to 8 Wednesday night. And I think that's enough live streams for one day. Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, and Miami tomorrow. And I believe I've got a super chat. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. Love to honor these. Jim Wilhelm, OK State want Georgia. Hashtag OK State wants hashtag UGA. Wouldn't it be just great to be able to set up these matchups? But we would wear these guys out, wouldn't we? These players would get a little worn out after we were like, man, we would love to see Ohio State play Georgia. And you know what? I'd love to see Oklahoma State play Texas A&M. We could go on and on with those matchups. That's always a great conversation. Who do you want to see play each other? And I'm guessing this particular season, the number one response would probably be Georgia, Ohio State, because Georgia and Alabama are going to play unless Texas A&M somehow makes it in there and Alabama loses to Auburn. So I think Georgia and Ohio State would be the number one answer. That would be my guess. I think some people would like to see Ohio State and Cincinnati play. I think some people would like to see, Georgia and Oklahoma. But you guys are amazing. Oh, super chat. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Jim, thank you so much for that contribution right there. Again, the Cowboys and the Bulldogs. We can set that up for you. Let's go on a campaign. Jim, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. This is the first time I've seen you jump on here. So you're obviously an Oklahoma State fan, which we love hearing from some different fan bases. I love it. Love the guy that calls me, Drew, a Wake Forest fan. Justin, go Bucks. Just keep winning. Great channel. Mark, thank you so much for that, Justin. That is so kind of you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Dun, 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 dun. Am I missing anything? I am going through all the comments. And I think we have, whoa, man, guys are going at it. I am scrolling like feverishly, and I don't know what time it is, but I'm up to 11 o'clock in the chat, and I am scrolling like a madman. You guys had a lot to say. Hopefully you were talking to each other. So here's the deal. If you guys see me on a regular basis, I try to get to as many comments and questions in the live chat as possible, which is usually almost it's impossible to get to, but especially on a night like tonight with so many people on. So obviously I have to honor the super chats first and foremost. Ben says, since Harbaugh at Michigan. Oh, this is Ben. Okay. This is the deal. You're not going to tell me anything, Ben. I don't know. I hate to tell you when I know something, I know something. I get it. I get it that in 2015, Jim Harbaugh went 10-3 his first year at Michigan, and James Franklin went 7-6, and that's what tips the scales. But since 2016, there's no well, I don't want to say there's no comparison. There is a comparison. It's not like Penn State's blowing away Michigan, but James Franklin has clearly accomplished more at Penn State than Jim Harbaugh is at Michigan. Okay, let's run it down. James Franklin, since 2016, has a better record than Jim Harbaugh, number one. Number two, James Franklin has beaten Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh has not. Number three, James Franklin's teams compete with Ohio State. They are competitive. They have given Ohio State by far the toughest competition in the Big Ten. Yes, Purdue beat Ohio State one-off. Iowa beat Penn State one-off in a blowout. I'm talking about consistently every year. Penn State is competitive with Ohio State. Check out the matchups. 2014, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. They're all either competitive close games or they are razor close. 39-38 with a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter. 27-26, 2-score lead in the fourth quarter. There is no comparison between what James Franklin and his team have accomplished on the field against Ohio State versus what Michigan has done against Ohio State, which is get throttled the last two times. And 2015 as well. Okay. James Franklin has a better record since 2016. He has beaten Ohio State. He has competed more competitively by far against Ohio State. Number three, he's won a Big Ten championship game. Jim Harbaugh has not done that. Number five, he's won 2 major bowl games, New Year's 6 bowl games. He's won a Fiesta Bowl. He's won a Cotton Bowl. Jim Harbaugh has played in 2 New Year's 6 games, and he lost. So, again, you can skew the numbers because you're picking up the 2015 year. I get it. James Franklin has a better record than Jim Harbaugh since 2016. He's beaten Ohio State. He's won a Big Ten championship game. He has competed with Ohio State on the field year after year. I'm not talking about one time, year after year after year after year. And he's won 2 major New Year's 6 games. Jim Harbaugh is not. James Franklin has done a better job at Penn State than Jim Harbaugh has done at Michigan. It's not like it's just totally out of whack, but it's decided. It's clear. Thank you for the contribution, but you're wrong. Okay. All right. We also appreciate the Ohio statement. Harbaugh plus Franklin equals 1-13 against Ohio State. And the one win belongs to Franklin. And again, 27-26, 39-38, 33-25 this year, 33-24 this year, on and on and on. It's not like comparing Nick Saban's record and Jeremy Pruitt's record. No, it's not that, but it is in James Franklin's favor, clearly. It's close. It's reasonably close. Penn State and Michigan have roughly been, but Penn State goes out there every year and plays Ohio State tough. Michigan does not. Penn State's won a Big Ten championship. Ben, have your coach, Jim Harbaugh, go win a Big Ten championship, and then we'll continue the discussion. Then we will have a discussion. Go win a Big Ten championship. Do that this year. Go do it. Win the rest of your games. Beat Ohio State head-to-head. Hope Michigan State loses to the Buckeyes. Go win the Big Ten championship. You can do it. We think Michigan State will probably lose to Ohio State, and then you can beat the Buckeyes, and you can go win the Big Ten championship, and then we can go have a discussion. That is a legit, okay, you got a Big Ten championship. I got a Big Ten championship. My side of the argument. Let's go from there. Win a Big Ten championship. How about that? And then we can continue the discussion. All right. It's great to have everyone here. So, I don't know what time it is. It's probably about 11:30 Eastern. There's a lot of things I should do. But man, I got these video ideas. But man, I'm tapped for the day. What I think I'm going to do is go get myself a big bowl of ice cream, and I'm just going to like veg in front of the TV for an hour. And then I'm going to do some more productive things. And then we're back at it tomorrow about 10 in the morning. Shoot, tomorrow. What's the schedule look like tomorrow? Again, we've got those 3 live streams. Yeah. 1:30 Ohio State, 5 o'clock Michigan, 6 to 8 Florida State, Miami. Today we recorded Michigan State, Texas A&M, Texas, Tennessee, Michigan, USC. Not that that matters, but our USC guy, we love him, Matt Zemek. So we have him on. We talk USC, and it takes about 32 seconds to talk about USC because they're doing nothing relevant right now. But then we talk about the coaching search and all that. So check out our USC channel. Get our Iowa channel up to 1,000 subs, people. That would be awesome. That would be awesome if you guys check out any of our channels. And obviously, if you're a Florida fan, go subscribe to our Florida channel, for example. But even if you just want to support, subscribe to any of the channels that are getting close to 1,000. We've got a few in the 600-700 range. It's very important in regards to YouTube algorithms to get to 1,000 subs. That would be phenomenal. And Iowa's leading the charge at about 730, something in that range. But my goodness, who else are we talking to tomorrow? We did Texas A&M today. On Wednesday. Yes. Again, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Miami. We will see you soon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It was a whole lot of fun tonight talking college football with all of you. That's what I love to do. Be back here tomorrow for Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Miami talk.